Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good evening, everyone, and good morning, everyone. Today, we are starting a new topic because our series, which we, began a couple of weeks ago with 5 precepts, and then we went over the 8 Noble Eightfold Path, and today we're going to be starting the 12th linked Paticcasamuppada, which means dependent origination or dependent arising, which is a pretty interesting topic to all of us, because if we do not understand the 12 links of the Paticcasamuppada, this dependent co-arising, dependent origination, we have a really hard time in understanding the fundamental dhammas and the reality, metaphysical reality, and all that. Okay, so what I'm going to do today is going to give you an overview of the dependent origination, which is called by Paticcasamuppada, and then we'll discuss questions that I got about avijjā, the first cause. I mean, there's something to talk about as well. Is avijjā the first cause? Is there a first cause to all these metaphysical realities? We'll talk about that, but currently, and at this point, I will suggest you there is a first link called by avijjā, but we will see how that goes, whether there is something else we want to know, whether there is no first cause or whatever. Okay. Paticcasamuppada is the most important teaching in Buddhism, which has no differences in many other Buddhist schools. They all agree the nature and the sort of the teaching of Paticcasamuppada. So now the first question that I can raise for you is, why do we need to learn Paticcasamuppada, called by dependent arising? So what is dependent arising? Now this is really interesting. When certain conditions are present, they give rise to subsequent conditions. Say there is what you call samadhi. When you have samadhi, you can see the nature of Paticcasamuppada in all the other Dhamma matters, right? When you have samadhi, then you are progressing towards samma sankappa, right? So because there was a cause, and that cause produce the next effect, and that effect will become the cause again to another subsequent Dhamma matter, which is called by samma vacha. So in the same way, when certain conditions are present, they give rise to subsequent conditions. Now this is the fundamental teaching behind Paticcasamuppada, dependent origination. I mean, you can see that this is manifest and this is present in almost all phenomena in our life. Because of my mom and dad, because of that cause, I was born, and so on and so forth. And if you can think about any phenomena except Nibbana, they all are conditioned. They all have a cause. Because of that cause, you can see the effect, and that effect will become the next cause to give rise to another condition. So it keeps going on. So why do we need to learn Paticcasamuppada? Because in one statement, the Buddha says, let me find out that for you. This is mentioned in the Majjhima Nikaya 28th Sutta, which is called by Mahahatti-padopama Sutta. In this sutta, Buddha clearly mentions that one who sees Paticcasamuppada or dependent origination sees the Dhamma. One who sees the Dhamma sees dependent origination. And these five grasping aggregates, panchakanda, and indeed dependently originated. The desire, the adherence, attraction, and attachment for these five grasping aggregates is the origin of suffering, dukkha. Giving up and getting rid of desire and greed for these five grasping aggregates is the cessation of suffering. No, now the most important thing here is that because you know Patisamuppada, if you learn this, then you are uh, easily understanding the connections between Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. I mean, these five aggregates. So this is very interesting because we know that we are a composite of the five aggregates, but we never know how each component, you know, composes the other aggregate. So there is a huge connection between this mind matter reality, right? Or psychophysical, reality. So in order to understand this psychophysical reality, which we see in five aggregates, the best and the easiest and the most important teaching is Paticca Samuppada. And if you could remember, if I'm correct, there was a monk called Vakkali in one sutta. Monk Vakkali was always around the Buddha. And then the Buddha asked a question, Vakkali, please go elsewhere and then do a meditation and practice your, path. And the monk Vakkali told the Buddha, I became a monk simply to see you because your beauty is so, amazing, wonderful. So I really wanted to see you, and that's why I'm around you all the time. The Buddha said, you can't see me through the physical outer appearance. You can only see me in a certain way. Let me tell you, your paticca samuppadan passati, so dhammam passati. Your dhammam passati, so mam passati. So if someone can understand the basic and the complex nature of the Patisamuppada, then only one understand the real Buddhism, real Dhamma. Then, if you know that Dhamma, true Patisamuppada, then only you understand who I am, who the Buddha is. Now, see, this is very interesting. This is very important, right? And if we talk about the Abhidhamma, in Abhidhamma, we can see there are 7 books. Out of these 7 books, there is one book called Patthana Pakarana, which is the last book, and as well as the most important compendium, Abhidhamma book in the whole Abhidhamma Pitaka, clearly talks about, deals with the Patthanas. Now, in the Patthanas, we call them conditionalities, we see nothing but the Paticca theory. Because in the first 6 books, we can see the analytical approach to the Dhamma, which is far higher than the Sutta Pitaka's explanations. We call it analytical approach to the Dhamma, called in other ways analysis. But only in the last book, which is called by Patthana Pakarana, we can see the synthesis, the synthetical approach to the Dhamma, which means how one can see the connection between each Dhamma. So there are 2 ways to see that. One is the 24 Pachayas, conditionalities, as well as the Patisamuppada approach. Now, it is pretty clear how important is Patisamuppada towards the proper learning of the Dhamma. So now, even the Majjhima Nikaya 28 Sutta called Maha Hattipadupma Sutta clearly mentioned that one has to understand dependent origination to see the Dhamma. Otherwise, you see the mere Dhamma in language. You will never understand the real Dhamma because you only see the technical terms. You will never learn the Dhamma in the true essence. The true essence lies around the Patisamuppada learning. Okay. Are there any examples for individuals who focus on the Paticca Samuppada and then attain the Nibbana? Of course, there are many opportunities. I think that most of the individuals had, because definitely if someone doesn't know Paticca or what you call dependent arising, they will never be able to attain Nibbana. Now, one of the examples is Sariputta and Moggallana, the two chief disciples of the Buddha. They learned a stanza from a monk on the way, and they were able to offer that monk. I probably think that monk was Assaji, and they asked that monk, could you please elaborate on your teacher's teaching? And then he said, I don't know a lot of things about the Buddha, but I know one stanza. This is the meaning of the stanza. Of those dharmas which arise from a cause, the Tathagata has stated the cause and also their cessation. Okay, so all the dharmas, they are mutually dependent each other, right? Except Nibbana. So the Buddha, my teacher, the Buddha, Tathagata, is the one who can tell you the cause and the cessation of those dhammas. Ye dhamma hetu pabhava tesang hetum tathagatuva. So this is pretty interesting. Because we know we are conditioned. Everything is conditioned except the Nibbana. So the Buddha can tell us the cause and cessation of those dharmas. Now, this is Paticca, a good example for those who attain Nibbana through Paticca, at least attain different spiritual paths. We know that Sariputta and Moggallana, they initially became Sotapanna, and then they were continuing. Also, we can see in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, monk Kondanja became, I guess he attained a certain stage of enlightenment with this statement: whatever is of a nature to arise, samudaya dhamma, is all of a nature to pass away. Whatever is of a nature to arise, samudaya dhamma, is all of a nature to pass away. Samudaya dhamma, nirodha dhamma. So this is another way to see Paticca is in action. In clear terms, or in clarity, I would share with you this stock phrase so you can understand it pretty clearly about Paticca's nature. When this exists, that comes to be. With the arising of this, that arises. When this does not exist, that does not come to be. With the cessation of this, that ceases. So all the dhammas means all the sankata dhammas, all the conditioned dhammas. So we all are conditioned. I'm conditioned, you are conditioned, this laptop is conditioned, internet is conditioned, Google is conditioned, right? So they all are subject to cessation. But then again they become another cause to give rise to another bunch of subsequent causes. So as long as we don't attain Nibbana, we are driven by the conditions. So this methodology, structure of how we traverse, how the conditioned dhammas travel from one to the other one, being the cause and the result, is what we call by Paticca. This is the Paticca, an easy way to to get a sense of what it is. Now, Paticca has a twofold way, called forward way and the reverse way. Forward order or reverse order. Now, we know there are 12 nidanas. We call them nidanas. Avijjā paccaya sankhara. Ignorance causes sankhara. Then sankhara, what you call sankhara means formations. Then sankhara causes sankhara paccaya vijnana. Sankhara paccaya nama rupa, mind and matter. And then the nama rupa causes vijnana, consciousness. Then avijjā paccaya sankhara paccaya vijnana. So let's take avijjā as the first cause at this point. Ignorance causes sankhara to arise, formations to arise. Then formations cause vijnana to arise, consciousness. And consciousness, causes Namarupa to arise, mind and matter. Then Namarupa causes Salayatana, 6 bases to arise. Then Salayatana causes the contact, Passa, to arise. Then Passa causes Vedana to arise, feelings. And Vedana causes Tanha to arise, craving to arise. Then Tanha causes Upadana, grasping to arise. Then Upadana, grasping, causes Bhava to arise, existence or becoming. And then becoming causes Jati to arise. Jati means we are reborn, right? In this samsaric ocean, right? A number of millions, trillions, billions, number of, you can't say the exact number. And then become, the birth. So now becoming causes Jati, which means birth to arise. Jati causes Jara Marana to arise, kind of a hybrid term, dual term, which means decay and death. So birth causes Jara Marana, decay and death to arise. Now, all these are mutually dependent. You can't separate out any of the nidanas. So, what we have to understand here is that all these links in the Patisamuppada, they are linked together. They are mutually dependent. No component, no nidana is taken out as an independent dhamma. This is very interesting to understand, because that means if you can take out one component, nidana, either from the forward order or from the reverse order, you are able to cross the samsara. Now, let's say samsara, if samsara is an ocean, now these are the links that have hindered us in not being able to cross the samsara. So we are sort of hindered. We are bounded by the 12 links. So we can't get over, we can't cross over the ocean. So we are thoroughly, tightly, I would say tightrope or tightly, bounded by these 12 links. So we have to break these links. So in order to break these links, there are 2 ways. The first way is to go from the beginning. That's called forward order. Or we can go from the reverse order. Now the Buddha, he followed the both ways. When he became the Buddha, he followed both the Anuloma and Patiloma ways, which means he went from avijjā to Jara Marana and Jara Marana to avijjā. Now there are a lot of questions arising about what the Patisamuppada refers to. Is it this life, or is it next life, or is it the whole samsara? Now, one of the scholarly opinion is that Patisamuppada talks about the dukkha khandha, mass suffering, not this life. But some of the scholars say avijjā sankhara refers to the past life, and viññāna nāmarupa salayatana passa vedana tanha upadana bhava refers to this life, and jati jara marana refers to the next life. So it's kind of a an interpretation given by being here, actually looking at the past and looking at the future and looking at this moment. But anyways, what we can understand in a more, I would say, scholarly opinion is that these 12 represent something called dukkha khandha, mass suffering. So what we can use this for our normal daily life. But if we can understand this to be the mechanism that keeps us taking in this samsara, then that would be a better way to understand Patisamuppada, rather than thinking avijja sankhara to be the past and the rest of the things except jati jara marana are present, and then jati jara marana for the future, because this is mass suffering, dukkha khandha. Okay, let's see another sutta, Maha Nidana Sutta, Digha Nikaya 15. In this sutta, Buddha says, now, dependent origination is is such important because of not understanding and not penetrating this teaching, people become tangled like a ball of string in views, dittis, samsara, rebirth, suffering. Yes, that's true. I mean, people don't know this mechanism behind their samsaric life, so that they are, uh, you know, uh, they are sort of hindered, and uh, they are tangled like a ball of string, right? They can't take out, these are my views, and this is why I am driven in samsara. They can't think about. This is why this teaching is very interesting. So I suggest you to learn, so that I hope you are not caught up in a kind of a situation where you think Parisampad is such difficult to understand. Okay, today we're going to be starting the first nidana, which is called by avijjā. Now, avijjā, the meaning of avijjā is ignorance, but there are other meanings too. Now, another meaning, another English translation for avijjā is unwisdom, because avijjā simply means not understanding the dukkha, the cause of the dukkha, the cessation of the dukkha, and the path which leads to the cessation of the dukkha. Now, this is avijjā. But generally speaking, avijjā means ignorance about the reality of metaphysical things. Especially, I would say, uh, in a sort of intellectual aspect. Now, this whole world is a composite. When we don't have what you call the knowledge of the Four Noble Truths, right? Dukkha Ariya Satya, Dukkha Samudaya Ariya Satya, Dukkha Nirodha Ariya Satya, Dukkha Nirodha Gamini Patipada Ariya Satya, then what happens? We are into avijjā. So then how do we use the Four Noble Truths to get out of avijjā? Because avijjā is a fetter as well, because you will completely abandon avijjā at the stage of being an arahant. But even before that, at least if you understand you are in a samsara, you need to understand the dukkha in four ways under the Four Noble Truths. And if you also understand that we are all blinded by ignorance, then you have a sort of understanding about what avijjā is, even though you have not completely abandoned it. So this is why I urge you to think that you are better than nothing, because you can understand what it is. But the practical application will be fulfilled complete only at the point of nibbana. But we should get a sense of what it is. So avijjā basically means not understanding the Four Noble Truths, especially using the anicca dukkha perspective towards any phenomena. Now, I see you in this camera. So am I real? I'm not real, but I see myself in this camera. And you probably see me that way, probably, in the same way, right? So all these composites, they are composites. They are made up of sankharas. How many of us try to understand that we are composites of, nama rupa, or what do you call the five aggregates, and when it comes to non-beings, I would say inanimate things, they are made of the four elements. Do we sort of understand beings and non-beings, I would say the inanimate things, with these components? I think we hardly pay attention to those things. We hardly pay attention to five aggregates. when we look at a person, when we see something in front of us. Also, we hardly see the four elements in inanimate things, right? Because we believe the conventional truth more than the ultimate truth. Now, this is where the fundamental avijjā exists. So, if you really want to understand avijjā as a knowledge in the first place, at least to get a sense of what it is, you need to practice, using this knowledge of five aggregates as well as the four elements. So then you understand that you see the anicca dukkha anatta nature, the changing nature, and the dissatisfactory nature, and the no ownership nature of all these phenomena. If you have that perspective, then you are having this sense of abandoning avijjā to a certain level. But the full completion will happen only at the level of you becoming an arahant. But anyway, so I just wanted to give you how do we need to understand avijjā, at the same time how it is completely abandoned, how you can get a sense of what it is. Because there are people who don't have any knowledge of what this avijjā means. So at least you understand what avijjā means. Now, everything in the world is only a composite of different elements. When these elements come together, we know there are things, conform, I would say formed. When the elements disperse, the object ceases to exist. This is the nature of everything in our life. But we don't look at things and people this way. We believe that things and people really exist. Now, this is where we have avijjā. Okay, so I wanted to point out one sutta to talk about why avijjā is very important to our practice. Now, this is Samyutta Nikaya 45.1 Avijjā Sutta. Let me read for you. Avijjā bhikkave pubbangama akusalanam dhammanam samapattiya anvadeva ahirikam anuttappam. Very interesting. Now we know, we already learned about the right view, right? We said right view is the forerunner of all the skillful activities. When you have right view, then you are able to practice, move ahead, navigate the other rest of the path factors. But if you have avijjā, then that is the root cause of all the other unskillful activities. Now people say, okay, I have anger, okay, dosa. I have attachment, lobha. But what is the root of lobha, dosa, moha? Avijjā. Because of avijjā, we are into lobha, we are into dosa, we are into another word, moha. What is moha? Is it same? People call it delusion. What's the connection between moha and avijjā? Actually, avijjā is the expanded version. Avijjā is the the biggest, I would say, the expanded version of what we call by ignorance. But moha is what we have in our life. In Abhidhamma, we say we have a moha chitta, we are deluded. But inside this moha, we have to understand avijjā lies as a bigger version, right? So it's like bhavanga chitta and the mind. So you have a mind in this life, but when you die, that mind is done. It's gone. Then you are going with your bhavanga chitta to another life, to another mind. In the same way, so moha, in our understanding, is what you can have in this life. Inside the moha, this avijjā lies. Avijjā is the expanded version of your ignorance. This is why the Buddha says, because of avijjā, all the akusala dhammas start. Not even that, because of avijjā, there are two fundamental unskillful activities begin to arise. What are they? Anvadeva ahirikam anuttappam. Lack of moral shame, lack of moral fear. Now, these are the two things behind all the bad activities, right? You don't have moral shame and moral fear, and then you're gonna kill, you're gonna steal, you're gonna sexually misbehave, you're gonna lie, you're gonna use food and beverages so that you won't have a sound mind. So behind all the bad activities, unskillful activities, is what we call by ahirika anuttappa. Ahirika anuttappa arise from avijja. So avijja is the root cause of all the unskillful activities. Avijja gatassa bhikkave avittasuno miccaditti pahoti. Miccadittissa micca sankappo pahoti. Micca sankappassa micca vacha pahoti. Micca vachassa micca kammanto pahoti. Micca kammantassa micca ajivo pahoti. Micca ajivassa micca vayamo pahoti. Micca vayamassa micca sati pahoti. Micca satissa micca samadhi pahoti. What does it mean? It means when you have avijja, then you will have ahirika anuttappa, moral lack of moral shame and lack of moral fear. Then what happens, what will happen to you is that then you're going to practice wrong view, wrong intention, wrong speech, wrong living, wrong effort, wrong mindfulness, wrong concentration. So all this starts from what you call avijja. On the other hand, see, because ignorance is the forerunner in the entry upon unwholesome states, with shamelessness or fearlessness of wrongdoing following along. For an unwise person immersed in ignorance, wrong view springs up, so and so forth. Let's take a look at the positive side. Vijjācako bhikkave pubbangama kusalanam dhammanam samapattiya anvadeva hirottappa. Now, when you have vijja, vijja means you attain the nibbana. That is vijja. When you have that vijja, unwavering vijja, this vijja is not the science. This is the highest wisdom. When you have that vijja, then what happens? You are equipped with moral shame and moral fear. Not even that, because you have moral fear and moral shame, then you are continuing, you are moving towards the right view, sammaditi. See, vijjāgatassa bhikkave viddasuno sammaditi pahoti. Sammadittis samma sankappo pahoti. Samma sankappas samma vacha pahoti. Samma vachasa, so and so forth. The same thing. So you are moving towards the end of the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, so now you get a sense of what avijja is and what kind of a role does avijja play in terms of our path. Now that's why I now just take a look at what I've been talking so far. We talked about the 5 precepts and then talked about the Noble Eightfold Path. Now you can see the connection between the Noble Eightfold Path and the avijja. Okay, avijja or vijja, they are the first roots. You have avijja, then you are into bunch of all the unskillful things, and then you will end up with the wrong eightfold path, miccha path. If you have vijja, nibbana, certain point, at least you get a sense of what vijja is. This is arahant. This is what I have to understand, the dwellings and how they arise. Then you will end up with the Noble Eightfold Path. What is the connection to avijja, of avijja to dukkha? It's highly connected, because now avijja, because of avijja, we are in the samsara. So avijja means not being able to understand the dukkha, dukkha samudaya, dukkha nirodha, dukkha nirodhagamini patipada, such. So this is the problem. This is why we are in the samsara. That so if we understand the dukkha very well, which means the Four Noble Truths, we are already out of the samsara. So it's connected. Dukkha and avijja is highly connected. I don't think there is any lapse. Dhamma folks, if you have any questions, please post them here. Let me see your questions if you have. Please post your questions. Huh? I couldn't tell you at the beginning, so I've been more focusing on the questions. Okay, this is a very good question. I want to explain this at the beginning, but I just, delayed to a certain extent to give you this kind of in a certain way. Is avijja the first reason, first cause. Now people say avijjā paccaya sankhara, sankhara paccaya vijñānam, vijñāna paccaya nama rupa, nama rupa paccaya salayatanam, salayatana paccaya passu, passa paccaya vedana, vedana paccaya upadana, upadana paccaya tanha, bhavo, bhava paccaya jati, jati paccaya jara marana. Soka parideva dukkha domanasukha. Now the problem is we start from avijjā. So is avijjā the first cause? No. In many suttas, as well as in the Abhidhamma, we see avijjā is an effect of asavas, defilements. Then you probably look for the cause of the asavas. Asavas, called defilements, actually people say taints, because actually defilements, defilement was given to the word called kilesa, but asava called influxes. So most people translate this to be taints. So taints are the cause of the cause of avijjā, ignorance, is taints. Then what's the cause of taints? The cause of taints, asava, is also avijjā. Now, why this happens? They are mutually dependent. Now, this is why you need to learn Abhidhamma. In the Paṭṭhānapakarana, 24 conditionalities, we learn the mutually dependent paccayas, conditional factors. So there is one factor over there. So whenever somebody has asavas, taints, the very moment you can see avijjā. Whenever someone has avijjā, ignorance, the very moment you can see asavas also. So they are mutually dependent. So you can't single out one cause in the Paටිච්චසමුප්පාda theory. So that means asavas and avijjā, they are, taking the role of the main cause and then propel other causes to arise. Asavas and avijjā, avijjā and asavas, and then the rest of the nidhanas. Okay, now you understand the main cause of. So avijjā is not the first cause, asavas. But asava is also not the first cause. They are mutually dependent. So you can't, it's like there is a competition. There's a competition. I would say that there are two first winners, but we can say the first one influences the second first winner. But there are two things that are mutually existing for other causes to arise. Now, in one place you can understand this mechanism very well. This is Sammaditthya Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya, number 9. In this sutta, you can see there are 16 ways to practice Sammaditthya. The wholesome and the unwholesome is number 1. This is where we start. Then nutriment, ahara. Third, the Four Noble Truths. Fourth, aging and death, jara marana. Now we go to the Paṭisamuppada. Fifth, birth, jati. Sixth, being, that means bhava. Seventh, clinging, that means upadana. 8, craving, that means tanha. 9, feeling, that means vedana. 10 means contact, that means passa. 11, the sixfold basis, salayatana. 12, mentality and materiality, nama rupa. 13, consciousness, vijñāna. 14, formation, sankhara. 15, ignorance, avijjā. 16, taints, asava. Now here you can see in the reverse order. Now this is the reverse order of Paṭisamuppada. You can see clearly when you see the reverse order of the Paṭisamuppada, Patiloma version, you can see that the starting point has been the asavas, taints, not the avijjā. But even the asavas do not represent the first cause. They are mutually dependent according to Paṭṭhānapakarana exposition. Okay. What are the other places where avijjā is a part of? Let me see. What are they? Now, avijjā is not only a part of the Paṭisamuppada. There are other places where avijjā can be a part of. What are those places? Let me see. Avijjā is termed as an anusaya. What is anusaya? Now the Buddha says our defilements lie at three levels. Call them anusaya, latent tendencies. When you sleep, what will happen to your kilesas? Are they gone? No. Your kilesas, they are sleeping also. They are still there, but they are sleeping. Now just think about an angry person, about somebody, and then that person sleeps at night. Anger is a little bit cooled down. In the morning, when he or she wakes up, and then thinking about day plans, and then the anger arises, comes back. Where was anger? Anger was latent, sleeping at night, right? Sleeping. So in the exposition of, in the teaching of anusayas, avijjā is one of the anusayas. That means ignorance is always a latent tendency. It's ignorance is with us all the time, but it is kind of sleeping. Now, when you look at the three levels, the three stages of kilesas, we know the first layer is anusaya, sleeping level. Then pariyuttana level. Pariyuttana means those kilesas that flash, come and go. There are people who angry and then again they are so calm. They are jealous and then again they are okay. This is the place called pariyuttana. But vitikkama means your defilements showing a full presentation. Let's say you are very angry, other people can notice you are angry. You are very jealous, other people can notice. You are doing a lot of bad things, other people can notice you. So these are the three levels of your defilements. Anusaya, latent level, sleeping level. Pariyuttana, recurring level. That means it pops up and then again it goes away. And then vitikkama, which means it is full blown, manifest. Okay. Other people can notice you have it. So in that way, avijjā is a part of anusayas, one of the latent tendencies. Avijjā is a late. That's why we can catch it very well, right? Because it's very late and sleeping. It's sleeping kind of a tendency. Avijjā is also one of the asavas. Now, what are the asavas? Influxes. Now, there are a couple influxes: kamasava, bhavasava, ditthasava, avijjāsava. Kamasava, which means calm. Sensuality is also an influx. So all the time, when you are sensual, sensuality is a flux. So it's influxing. And then bhavasava, becoming, thoughts of becoming, right? About next life and previous lives. Then ditthasava means your views. When you have, views about idiosyncrasies, ideologies, they are influxing, right? When you are a part of a political party, when you have a certain view about the world and the society, every time you act on your own things, views are flowing towards you, influxing. That's why the Buddha said views are really dangerous. You have a healthy view, but don't attach to your view. Kind of a lobe. Kamasa, bhavasava, ditthasava, avijjāsava. Then you can see avijjā. Ignorance is also an influxing thing. Because whenever you, as long as you don't understand the Four Noble Truths, at least at the level of understanding, literal understanding, avijjā is influxing towards you. Avijjā is also an oga. Oga means a stream. You are carried away by that, those particular ogas. Kama oga, there are ogas. So avijjā is also a kind of a stream. And it is a sangyojana. Now, this is very interesting. Now, sangyojana means fetter. Now, these are the fetters. There are 10 fetters that have bound us in the samsara. So the first three are sakkaya ditthi, personality belief, sakkaya ditthi, vicikicca, which means doubts, and then silabbata paramasa, that means attachment to rites and rituals. And then kamaraga patiga, sensual desire, and then ill will. Then ruparaga, aruparaga, mana, uddhacca, avijjā. Desire to be born in the Rupa worlds, Brahma worlds, and desire to be reborn in the Arupa world. So that means if you have a thought to become a Brahma or somebody like that, it is also a fetter that has fettered during the samsara ocean. And then Aruparaga, mana, conceit, uddhacca, restlessness, avijjā is the last fetter that has fettered us in the samsara. So in that way, avijjā, in order for you to abandon avijjā in the fullest sense, it is a possibility, but you have to work a lot towards that. Any questions so far? Please post them under comments. Otherwise, I'm going to the last question. Okay, so how to abandon avijjā? Interesting question. Now, in one of the suttas called Dutiya Avijjā Pahana Sutta, which is, I guess, Samyutta Nikaya 35.80. The Buddha says, when you abandon avijjā, then the true knowledge arises. So, how does that happen? This is how it happens. Ignorance is one thing, avijjā, such that by giving it up, a mendicant gives up ignorance and gives rise to knowledge. But how does a mendicant know and see so as to give up ignorance and give rise to knowledge? It is when a mendicant has heard nothing is worth insisting on. This means abhinivesana, no abhinivesana. When a mendicant has heard that nothing is worth insisting on, they directly know all things. Directly knowing all things, they completely understand all things. They see the eyesight, they see the eye, chakku, they see the sights, rupa, they see the chakku vinyana, eye consciousness, they see the eye contact as other. They are not taking all that as one composite. Now, in our normal life, we would like to take everything as one thing. So, for example, I would say, I'm Bhante Chandima. But if I never try to, break this composite nature. Now, this is my chakku, this is whatever the thing that or person that I like is something that is happening through my eyesight. Should I take it as eyesight or as a person? And my chakku vinyana, sota and saddha vinyana. So if we do not break all these composites into their fundamental nature, then we will never be able to abandon ignorance. So one of the easiest ways to break avijjā is always try to break what you call the composites, the 5 aggregates at the same time, your sensory experiences. So you have your eye, you have your ear, you have your nose, tongue, body, and the mind. And they have relevant experiences, objects, called by sights, sounds, smell, taste, contact, and thoughts. At the same time, they have their own consciousnesses as well. Eye consciousness, chakku vinyana, ear consciousness, sota vinyana, what you call nose consciousness, jihva vinyana, tongue consciousness, jihva vinyana, that is gana vinyana, divha vinyana, and then kaya vinyana, which means body consciousness, and then mano vinyana. Every time, this is the easy way to understand how avijjā plays a role and then to break it. Every time when you experience a sensory experience, when you see someone, when you hear something, when you smell something, when you taste something, when you feel something, when you think something, try to break that experience into the senses, sensory object, and to the particular vinyana, conscious. Then you are able to break the avijjā. This is what we understand by Samyutta Nikaya 35.80. The sutta is called so the sutta clearly says this, even by the title, Dutiya avijjā pahāna sutta, giving up ignorance. So in order for you to give up ignorance, what you have to do is try to break your sensory experience into its senses, at the same time objects and particular consciousness. So then you have a really easy time to understand what avijjā is. I mean, I'm not telling that you are going to attain nibbana in one day, but this is a practice. You have to keep practicing this sensory thing. Then you are able to understand I and how I actually see the composites of other people and myself. Because whenever and as long as you don't understand the composites with sensory experiences, by breaking them into senses, objects and sensory experiences, you will regard them as, consider them as realities, right? Conventional things. But if you break them, secretly, at the same time, carefully, with mindfulness, that will be the way to break avijjā in the first place. Okay, any questions? So we will be discussing the next component, link of Patisamuppada next Monday. It's going to be Sankhara. Sankhara is very interesting because it's kind of a very popular term in the Buddhist teachings, as well as it has multiple meanings. So we had to talk about what exactly we can understand from Patisamuppada. Okay, let's give a minute if you have any questions to forward as a comment. Otherwise, I can go ahead with the transference of merits. So one more time, let me reiterate some of the very highlights of the talk today. I would say the Q&A discussion. The reason why we need to understand, even on a literal sense, about this Patisamuppada is Patisamuppada is the main mechanism in all the Buddhist traditions, the Buddhist teachings. At the same time, avijjā, the first, I would say, this is kind of the first cause that we can see in the normal books, but it is not the first cause. Avijjā and asavas, they are mutually productive, co-arisen. So we can say it's the first cause. But, seemingly avijjā is what we see, at the beginning. So avijjā is what causes all the unwholesome roots to arise. So if you take care of avijjā, the easiest way to break avijjā is you need to break your sensory experience. Break sensory experience at all times. Then only you can understand there is avijjā in me. So let's say you see kind of a likable thing, likable person, you're gonna break, okay, this seeing is not real, but I'm gonna look at what is happening now. I have my chakku, eyes, and because of my eyes, I see an object, be that a person or a inanimate thing, and then there is an eye consciousness. This is what is happening now, not a real person at that point. So if you can practice this, I'm not asking you to disrespect your family, friends, and your loved ones. I mean, please be with them. But at the same time, whenever you have a time, you need to practice Dhamma as well, right? If you don't do that, you will never be able to understand these precious teachings, right? So if you can break the sensory experiences into senses, objects, and the relevant consciousnesses, that is how you can abandon avijjā, even from the simplest level. Okay, I see no questions here. So let me go into the transference of merits. May all the good karmas we've been accumulating so far be transferred to all the dead relatives, I would say departed relatives, passed away in the name of all of us. May they be happy and peaceful. May they attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Idammi nyati nang hotu sukita huntu nyateo. Idammi nyati nang hotu sukita huntu nyateo. Idammi nyati nang hotu sukita huntu nyateo. May all the good karmas be shared by all the devas and nagas. May they be happy and peaceful. May they also bless you for good health, long life, and all the prosperity. May the deities and the nagas, devas and nagas also attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Ittavata cha amehi sambatang punya sampadang. Sabbe deva anumodantu, sabbe bhuta anumodantu, sabbe satta anumodantu, sabba sampatti siddhya, akasattha cha bhummattha devanaga mahittika, punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu lokasasanang, chirang rakkantu desanang, chirang rakkantu paranti. Finally, let's make a great wish. May all the good karmas that we've been accumulating in all these ways, especially this particular first teaching of Patisamuppada. I mean, this is not an easy teaching, but I was trying to make it more simple to you. I hope that you learn the easiest ways to understand what is avijjā and how does avijjā play in our life, and what is the easiest way to break free avijjā, so that you are happy, that you are working towards the rest of the links in the Patisamuppada. May all these good karmas that we've been having so far be able for all of us to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. I'm going to be blessing you with a couple more stanzas. Please receive the blessing. Abhivadana siddhis niccang baddha pachayino chattaro dhamma vaddhanti ayuvanno sukhang balang ayurarogya sampatti sagga sampatti mevacha ato nibbana sampatti iminati saminjatu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, please continue to take care of you, because I hope the physical and mental health, they both equally important to us to practice it down. Okay, take care. Have a good morning. Have a good day ahead of you, and have a good evening for those who join from North America. Thank you.